Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 30th, 2025. This is an adjudicatory hearing before the Massachusetts Gaming Commission relative to a request for a finding of durable suitability for Penn Sports Interactive, LLC, which is doing business as ESPN Bet, and which currently holds a temporary Category 3 tethered sports wagering operator license. I will refer to Penn Sports Interactive as PSI. My name is Jordan Maynard, and I'm the chair of the Gaming Commission. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Commissioners Eileen O'Brien, Brad Hill, Nikisha Skinner, and Paul Broder. The entire commission will preside over the hearing and decision in this matter. This hearing will be conducted in accordance with 205 CMR 101.01, the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 10 and 11, and 801 CMR 1.02, the informal and fair hearing rules. This hearing is being conducted via remote collaboration technology. Before we begin, I would like to explain the process that will govern this proceeding. First, a notice of hearing was provided to PSI in advance of today's hearing. Therein, it identified the issues that this hearing is intended to address. The Commission has indicated that it will specifically be considering the issues discussed in the notice, including the following: the durable suitability of PSI pursuant to 205 CMR 215.011, and the contents of the Investigations and Enforcement Bureau's suitability report. I will now turn to our Deputy General Counsel, Jenna Hentoff, to explain the suitability standard that we will be considering during our discussion today. Good morning, Jenna.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are here today to consider a durable finding of suitability for Penn Sports Interactive, or PSI, under 205 CMR 215.01, subsection 1. The Commission adopted Section 215 of the regulations to govern suitability determinations in connection with sports wagering licenses. In Section 215, the Commission included provisions allowing for a durable finding of suitability, otherwise known as the final determination of suitability, as well as provisions related to a preliminary finding of suitability. PSI currently holds a preliminary finding of suitability, which the Commission approved on January 4th, 2023. The finding of preliminary suitability was based on an evaluation of the criteria set forth in 205 CMR 215.01 to 205 CMR 218.06 5F and Mass General Laws, Chapter 23N, Section 6D. As a quick refresher, the suitability criteria enumerated in 205 CMR 215.012, 218.06 5F, and General Laws, Chapter 23 and Section 6D include the following: the overall reputation of the applicant, including but not limited to the integrity, honesty, good character, and reputation of the applicant or qualifier, the financial suitability, integrity, and background of the applicant or qualifier, the business practices and the business ability of the applicant to establish and maintain a successful sports wagering operation, whether the applicant or qualifier has a history of compliance with gaming or sports wagering licensing requirements in other jurisdictions, whether the applicant or qualifier at the time of application is a defendant in litigation or in litigation involving its business practices, the suitability of all parties and interests to the license, including affiliates and close associates, and the financial resources of the applicant, whether the applicant or qualifier is ineligible to hold a license under 205 CMR 215.014, General Laws, Chapter 23N, Section 9A, or General Laws, Chapter 23N, Section 6E, whether the applicant or qualifier has been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude, whether and to what extent the applicant and qualifier has associated with members of organized crime or other persons of disreputable character, and the extent to which the applicant or qualifier has cooperated with the IEB during the review of the application. By the terms of 205 CMR 215, the Commission's regulations, any durable finding of suitability must be supported by clear and convincing evidence, not just substantial evidence, which is a lower standard that is used for the remainder of the licensing application. Our jurisprudence tells us that clear and convincing proof exists when the evidence induces in the mind of the fact finder a reasonable belief that the facts asserted are highly probably true, that the probability that they are true or exist is substantially greater than the probability that they are false or do not exist. For evidence to be clear and convincing, it must be sufficient to convey a high degree of probability that the proposition to be proved is true, and it must be strong and positive and full, clear, and decisive. In the matter before you, You may choose to award a durable finding of suitability if you conclude that the applicant and each of its qualifiers have demonstrated their suitability by clear and convincing proof. Such a finding would be a positive determination under 205 CMR 215.011E and may include conditions and restrictions if applicable. If the commission determines that the evidentiary burden for suitability is not met, it would issue a negative determination with respect to suitability. And with that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jenna. At this time, I would ask for PSI's representative to please identify themselves and your team. Who's going to go first?
Good morning, Chair Maynard, commissioners, staff. I have with me today a big group, so I can have them introduce themselves if they'd like. Jay, if you want to start.
Still on mute, sorry about that. Good morning, Chair, members of the commission, staff. Jay Snowden, CEO with Penn Entertainment.
Good morning, Felicia Hendricks, CFO, Penn Entertainment.
Good morning, Todd George, EVP Operations, Penn Entertainment.
I'm Chris Rogers. I'm Chief Strategy and Legal Officer for Penn.
Good morning. I'm David Lingenfelter. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Penn.
Good morning. I'm David Handler, Chairman of the Board of Penn.
Good morning. Chris Soriano, Chief Compliance Officer for Penn.
Good morning. Adam Cates, Vice President of Compliance for Penn Interactive.
Good morning. Greg Cordovari, VP of Finance for Interactive at Penn.
Good morning. Nicole Durr, Director of Interactive Licensing.
I think that's it. And I should have said my name and title, Sam Haggerty, Deputy Chief Compliance Officer and Regulatory Affairs Counsel for Penn.
Well, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Paul, for joining us today. At the conclusion of my opening comments, this proceeding will commence with the IEB's presentation of its findings to the Commission, pursuant to 205 CMR 215.01, subsection 1, and 205 CMR 115.03. Any commissioner may ask a question of anyone presenting information at any point during or following the presentation. At the conclusion of the IEB's presentation, PSI will be afforded the opportunity to ask questions of any individual who presented information on behalf of the IEB as well. At the conclusion of the IEB's presentation, the licensee will be given the same opportunity to make a presentation. They may call any witnesses and present any other evidence they desire. As before, any commissioner may ask any question of any witness or presenter at any time during or after any presentation. PSI may raise any objection it desires at any time. However, the basis for all objections must be clearly stated. After the licensee's presentation, the Commission will address each topic area from the notice of hearing in turn, and each commissioner will have a full opportunity to ask questions of any witness concerning those topic areas before moving on. Finally, at the conclusion of the presentations of all the evidence, the licensee will be provided with an opportunity to make closing remarks, summing up its view of suitability. Before we begin, I understand that there are a number of exhibits for consideration at this hearing that have been submitted in advance. Those exhibits are as follows: a notice of hearing that's dated January 2nd, 2025, the IEB report regarding full suitability investigation and regarding the application of Penn Sports Interactive LLC for a Category 3 sports wagering license, tethered, dated January 7th, 2025, the IEB report regarding the review for preliminary suitability, dated December 16th, 2022, an attached amendment dated January 12th, 2023, the report regarding review for financial suitability of Penn Sports Interactive LLC, dated January 7th, 2025, and a letter to the Investigations and Enforcement Bureau from Penn Sports Interactive LLC, dated January 17th, 2025. Are there any objections to these exhibits being marked and entered into evidence?
None from the IEB, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Zach.
None from Penn either.
Thank you, Sam. These exhibits shall be admitted into evidence. For purposes of ensuring a clean record, I ask that everyone, when possible, please refer to the aforementioned exhibits by exhibit number when referring to any of these documents. If anyone would like to have additional documents entered into evidence during the course of the hearing, please ensure that they are properly introduced and marked for the record. As explained, the Commission anticipates that its inquiry at this proceeding will be related to the matters addressed in the notice of hearing relative to the licensee's durable finding of suitability. In the event that a line of questioning conducted by the Commission moves into an area that has not been included in the report or notice, but that is material to the final determination of the matter, any party may request a recess in the proceeding in order to review the issue. The Commission will deliberate privately and make a final decision at the conclusion of the evidentiary portion of the hearing. The decision will be issued as promptly as possible. If at any point during the Commission's deliberations, it determines that further testimonial or documentary evidence is desirable, it reserves the right to ask the appropriate party to provide such evidence prior to a final decision being made. We will now swear in all the witnesses. Attorney Mercer and Ms. Haggerty, are all the individuals you anticipate presenting testimony in this matter present on this call right now?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Sam. If there is anyone who is not present, but who will later testify, it will be up to you to alert the Commission that they have yet to be placed under oath. Anyone who will be testifying at this proceeding, and if you've watched these before, I have to scroll through a lot. So please raise your right hand at this time. Give me just a second. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will provide for the Commission at this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
No.
You.
I do.
I do.
All right. Thank you. And for the record, I'll note that everyone responded in the affirmative. A proceeding of this nature necessarily requires the consideration of a wide variety of information that takes several forms. In this case, some of the information and documentation may include commercially sensitive information. The discussion of such information may place an entity at a competitive disadvantage if such information were to be disclosed. May place an entity at a competitive disadvantage if such information were to be publicly discussed. For the Commission to be able to execute its legal obligations effectively and diligently prior to making a final finding, it must be at liberty to fully inquire relative to any of these sensitive matters without compromising the individuals or entities involved. To do otherwise would be, at a minimum, unfair and potentially unlawful. Accordingly, my colleagues and I may elect to exercise the discretion afforded in accordance with 205 CMR 101.01, paragraph 7, to close this proceeding to the public to fully address certain matters related to privacy, proprietary or sensitive technical information, including but not limited to software, algorithms, and trade secrets, or for other good cause shown. Under this same regulatory section, PSI may request that portions of this hearing be closed to the public as well, and any such request will be considered in turn. Any such request must clearly state the matters for which the Commission is being asked to close the proceeding to the public. The closed session will be limited to only those matters raised in the request. I'm going to let that sit for just a second. All right. Before we begin, it is my understanding that a pre-hearing conference was conducted in this matter on January 16, 2025, with representatives of the licensee, the IEB, and the legal counsel, at which procedural and evidentiary issues were discussed. Does anyone have any preliminary issues or objections they would like to raise?
None from the IEB.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
None from Penn.
Thank you, Ms. Haggerty. With that, I will ask you, Sam, on behalf of PSI, if you would like to proceed with any opening remarks.
I'm comfortable letting the IEB proceed with their presentation first, and then we can respond after that if Attorney Mercer is okay with that.
That's fine with the IEB.
We will now turn to you, Mr. Mercer, to make any opening remarks on behalf of the IEB, and then you can move directly into your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Zach Mercer, Enforcement Counsel for the IEB. With me today are Chief Enforcement Counsel and Assistant Director of the IEB, Kathleen Kramer, and IEB Director Caitlin Monahan, along with members of the IEB's investigatory team. Thank you for the opportunity today to present the IEB's investigation regarding durable suitability for Penn Sports Interactive LLC. For today's purposes in my remarks, I'll refer to the operator as PSI. Before we begin the presentation, I'd like to recognize the investigatory team, starting with the State Police Unit, led by Lieutenant David Collette. That team includes members of the GEU, retired GEU's troopers working in the capacity of contract civilian investigators. Additionally, I'd like to recognize the Financial Investigation Team, led by Chief Financial Investigator Monica Chang, assisted by contract investigators from the firm RSM. Both sides of that team engaged in a thorough investigation. I'd like to thank CEC Kramer and Director Monahan for their leadership and guidance in this matter. As the commissioners are aware, PSI has submitted an application for a Category 3 mobile sports wagering operator license pursuant to General Laws Chapter 23N, Section 6B3. The applicant is tethered to Plainville Gaming and Redevelopment LLC, doing business as Plainridge Park Casino, or PBC. PBC holds a Category 2 gaming license pursuant to General Laws Chapter 23K, Section 20. It also holds a Category 1 sports wagering license pursuant to General Laws Chapter 23N, Section 6B1. The IEB conducted a review for preliminary suitability pursuant to 205 CMR 215.012A and B, and submitted its report regarding that review to the Commission on December 16th, 2022. That report has been marked as IEB's Exhibit 3 in your packet. On January 4th, 2023, the Commission voted unanimously at a public meeting to allow PSI to request a temporary Category 3 sports wagering license. On February 23rd, 2023, the Commission's then Executive Director issued a temporary Category 3 sports wagering license to PSI. PSI received its operation certificate on March 10th, 2023, and launched the same day. The licensing division rescoped PSI's application based on the legislative amendment to General Laws Chapter 23N, Section 5B, and 205 CMR 215.02, identifying the entity and individual qualifiers. On August 29th, 2023, the licensing division determined the application was administratively complete and transmitted the application to the IEB for its full investigation. The IEB conducted an investigation for full suitability, and its findings are detailed in the report that has been marked as Exhibit 2 in your packet. The investigation was performed in accordance with 205 CMR 215.011C, further description of which is found beginning on page 5 of Exhibit 2. Suitability is an ongoing concept, and the IEB's report is intended to assist the Commission in making a determination of PSI's suitability at this time. The factors that the Commission shall consider in making a determination of suitability are found in General Laws Chapter 23N, Section 6, 205 CMR 215, and 205 CMR 218. These were previously detailed by counsel and are also outlined in Exhibit 2 on pages 6 and 7. As part of the investigation, investigators conducted a review of the applicant company PSI and the applicant's ultimate parent company Penn Entertainment, including its history, product lines, offerings, and overseas operations where applicable. Investigators also conducted on-site reviews of the applicant's facilities. Pursuant to General Laws Chapter 23N, Section 6D, the Commission may use information obtained from the applicant pursuant to Chapter 23K, Chapter 128A, Chapter 128C, or information from other jurisdictions where the applicant is authorized to conduct sports wagering. As Penn is the parent company of PPC, information gathered from Penn's status as a qualifier in that capacity is used in this investigation. This also relates to 5 of the 6 individual qualifiers in this matter. Also, because of its existing status as the parent company for PPC, Penn has been subject to the reporting requirements of 205 CMR 139.041 through 17, and is required to maintain information as prescribed by 205 CMR 139.05. Namely, Penn has been required to make available to the Commission information such as records regarding its business structure, securities filings, tax returns, detailed financial accounting documentation, compliance plans, and Board of Directors meeting minutes. Considering Penn's status as a qualifier and these ongoing obligations, the investigators conducted a targeted examination of the composition of the parent company's Board of Directors and Compliance Committee and the cybersecurity program for purposes of this report. Investigators had meetings and correspondence with PSI, primarily through PSI VP of Interactive Compliance, Adam Cates. The information and responses provided by PSI were sufficient to evaluate each area of the investigation's inquiry. PSI fully cooperated with the investigation and provided information on its own initiative and at request. Additionally, six individual qualifiers and two entity qualifiers were identified in this review. Of the 6 individual qualifiers, 5 have received previous positive determinations of suitability from the Commission for their roles in relation to Penn Entertainment and BBC. The 6th individual is Penn Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer Aaron LaBerge. Mr. LaBerge assumed his role and was identified as a qualifier during this investigation, and his suitability investigation is ongoing. As stated, the review conducted by the IEB serves as a window into the operations of PSI and its parent company Penn in the time that the IEB and its agents from RSM were able to review submissions and request supplemental documentation. For the purposes of this review, the report and its observations were made primarily from documentation and responses provided as of January 12, 2024. In the report, particularly the financial section, some updates beyond that date have been provided and are noted as such. After the IEB completed its report, it was submitted to PSI for a factual accuracy review. In this review, PSI had the opportunity to examine the recommendations made by the investigators from the results of its investigation. Following those observations, PSI has noted the investigators' recommendations and has submitted correspondence with the Commission, which is included in today's packet, indicating a commitment to remedy the concerns as identified by the investigators. Today's presentation will provide an overview of our investigation and highlight some of the key points. All of these steps were taken in order to assist the Commission in determining if the applicant has satisfied the affirmative obligation to demonstrate their suitability by clear and convincing evidence. In today's presentation, you'll first hear from Kevin Murphy, retired member of the GEU, acting in this matter as a civilian investigator regarding the scope and findings of his investigation. You'll then hear from Financial Investigations Division Chief Monica Chang, and also Dan Moss and Chris Fitzgerald from RSM. Dan and Chris will present the findings of the financial investigation of the applicant and its qualifiers. Then Chris will present RSM's cybersecurity review. Ultimately, you will hear that following a thorough investigation, the IEB is recommending that the applicant and entity qualifiers have established their qualifications for durable suitability, as stated earlier, by clear and convincing evidence. With that, at this point, I'll turn it over to Kevin Murphy to explain the methods and findings of the GEU's investigation. Kevin?
Thank you, Zach. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Kevin Murphy. I'm a civilian investigator assigned to the IEB of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Pursuant to our investigatory standard operating procedures, we have conducted a comprehensive review of all applications and submissions from Penn Sports Interactive, doing business as ESPN Bet. A thorough background investigation was carried out concerning the applicant, which consists of 2 entity qualifiers, Penn Interactive Ventures, LLC, and Penn Entertainment, Inc., as well as 6 individual qualifiers, David Handler, Jay Snowden, Felicia Hendricks, Todd George, Christopher Rogers, and Aaron LaBerge. As Zach had mentioned, all of these qualifiers, with the exception of Mr. LaBerge, were previously deemed suitable by the Commission due to their status as qualifiers for Penn Entertainment. On June 11, 2024, the MGC Licensing Division confirmed that Mr. Aaron LaBerge, Executive Vice President and Chief Technology Officer of Penn Entertainment, was determined to be a qualifier and a sports wagering qualifier. The suitability investigation regarding Mr. LaBerge is still ongoing. As part of this investigation, routine communications were established with the applicant, which led to the submission of additional information and supplemental documentation. The investigative process involved extensive research to identify any relevant information regarding the applicant and associated entities, utilizing all available sources. In the initial stages of the investigation, the investigators traveled to Philadelphia and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to review recent investigative reports related to Penn Sports Interactive, prepared by Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. This review facilitated the cross-referencing of the submissions made to the MGC. Additionally, inquiries were made at local, state, and federal levels regarding any potential criminal history associated with the applicant or its entities, and no such history was found. Investigators also reviewed civil litigation databases for any lawsuits involving the applicant or its entities, focusing on cases involving allegations of fraudulent or derogatory business practices. Secretary of State and Security and Exchange Commission databases were consulted to identify any filings by the applicant or entities, and all findings were reviewed for potential derogatory information. Open source checks were conducted, including reviews of media outlets and social media to capture any relevant material regarding the involved entities. Investigators also conducted a review of aggregated public data from subscribed software tools of the applicant and entities. The aggregated public data included, but was not limited to, FEIN records, fictitious business name records, executive affiliations, corporate filings and world check profiles, world base records, Office of Foreign Assets Control records, and UCC records. No derogatory information surfaced that was associated with the applicant or entity qualifiers. As part of this investigation, we reached out to other jurisdictions where the applicant currently operates or has pending applications for gaming-related business to verify their standing of their licenses. Responses from these jurisdictions revealed no derogatory or disqualifying information. In addition, investigators received original and updated submissions of reports relative to regulatory fines and violations of PSI by other jurisdictions. In many cases, substantive reports were available for review relative to the facts and circumstances of said violations. A summary of these violations had been submitted to the Commission, listing the jurisdiction, the nature of the violation, and the ultimate disposition. Investigators noted the applicant was alleged to have committed more than 25 regulatory violations in 10 different jurisdictions. The most significant fine was a $250,000 fine issued for hosting a pregame show on the University of Toledo campus in November of 2021. It targeted persons under the age of 21 by encouraging the college audience to pre-register for Barstool Sportsbook, including the offering of bonus cash for the Barstool Sportsbook and MyCash for Penn Entertainment casinos related to sportsbook pre-registration. A material change since the Commission's preliminary suitability review in 2022, as detailed in the IEB's report, is the termination of Penn's strategic partnership with Barstool Sports, Inc., and new marketing relationship with ESPN. Penn initially entered into a strategic relationship with Barstool in February 2020 by acquiring 36% of the company. Penn later announced its plan to acquire the entirety of Barstool Sports in February of 2023. It was December 20th, 2022 that the Commission found Plainridge Park and Casino preliminarily suitable for a temporary Category 1 sports wagering operator license, which was issued on January 12th of 2023. The Commission determination was contingent upon two conditions placed upon PPC. First, the operator makes efforts to ensure that only those 21 and older attend any live events conducted by the Barstool College football shows. And second, the operator must cooperate with the IEB in conducting a fulsome investigation of Barstool Sports, Inc. in connection with its branding of Penn Sports Interactive. On January 4th, 2023, the Commission imposed the same conditions on PSI. Penn acquired the remaining interest in Barstool in February of 2023. Upon PSI's Massachusetts launch in March of 2023, its sportsbook product was branded as Barstool Sportsbook. However, on August 8th of 2023, Penn entered into a sportsbook agreement with ESPN which provided for a long-term strategic relationship between Penn and ESPN relating to online sports betting in the United States. Pursuant to the sportsbook agreement, Penn rebranded its sportsbook across all online platforms in the United States as ESPN Bet. In conjunction with establishing the relationship with ESPN, Penn entered into a stock purchase agreement with Barstool founder David Portnoy on August 8th, 2023, to sell 100% of the outstanding shares of Barstool Sports back to Mr. Portnoy. The IEB generated a report on the conditions implemented by the Commission. This included the discussion of Penn's divestiture of Barstool, along with a review of the conditions of licensure. The IEB presented this report to the Commission during its October 2nd, 2023 public meeting. On that date, Penn presented an overview of their partnership with ESPN. Penn's mobile sports wagering platform remained branded as Barstool Sportsbook until the launch of ESPN Bet on November 14th, 2023. On June 14th, 2024, the Commission rendered a positive determination of durable suitability for PPC's Category 1 sports wagering license following an adjudicatory hearing held on March 11, 2024. In its decision, the Commission stated in reference to the conditions on PPC's temporary license that the conditions regarding the Barstool College football show had been rendered moot due to the Barstool divestiture prior to the commencement of the college football season. Further, the Commission indicated that PPC was cooperative with the IEB in satisfaction with the second condition. This relationship between Penn Entertainment and Barstool Sports is discussed in the report on pages 54 and 55 for your review. Based on the investigation, there are no known facts that would disqualify the applicant from a finding of suitability. Further, the IEB submits that based on the investigation, the applicant and qualifiers have established by clear and convincing evidence that they are suitable under the criteria set forth in the Massachusetts sports wagering law and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And at this point, before I turn the matter over to RSM and to Monica, I'd point out that I believe it's been flagged at this point that some of the areas that will be touched upon in the RSM presentation will be subject to a request to go into private session from PSI. I'd invite Sam to explain their position further at this point, if need be. But at this point, I would open the floor to that if allowed.
Thanks, Attorney Mercer. Yes, Penn is a publicly traded company, the parent company. And so to the extent that there's public information that we filed with the SEC, we're comfortable having that discussed in public. However, PSI, the applicant, and PIV, the other entity qualifier, are not publicly traded. And so that information is not public. And so to the extent that any of those things overlap or are going to be discussed, we'd request closed session for those items.
Thank you. I'll point out on behalf of the commissioners and the commission, I believe I'm safe in saying this, we'd like to have as much of the conversation in public as possible. And then we're happy to entertain those requests to go into private session.
At this point, just for guidance and for clarity in the process, I think that the introductory remarks by Mr. Moss explaining the kind of overview and methodology of the investigation would be appropriate for the public session. I think once we get into the findings, just due to the nature of the corporate setup here, as far as the intertwining of public and private information, I think those would be inextricably linked. So I think without stepping on the toes of legal or the commission, I think at the conclusion of the beginning of Mr. Moss's presentation would be the best time to take that up, if appropriate.
We'll consider it at that time, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you very much. So at this point, prior to Dan taking it over, I turn it over to Monica to introduce that end of the team, and then I think we can proceed from there.
All right. If we can, I will ask if any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Mercer up to this point. Okay. All right.
Great. Hello, Chair and Commissioners. Good morning. The investigators from RSM are here today and will be either presenting to the commission or will be available for questions throughout this hearing. The commission has heard them present in other occasions. Members include Greg Naviloff, Chris Fitzgerald, and Daniel Mass. They lead a group of the RSM staff who have performed detailed analysis, inquiries, and evaluations that contributed to the final investigatory report. For PSI specifically, the corporate financial analysis and review of the applicant and entity qualifiers was led by Dan, and the cybersecurity analysis and review was led by Chris and Gianna Kubiak. They were supported by various team members, including Shannon Neville, Austin Vance, Christopher Gray, Devin Banks, and Maddie Lazis, among others. So I will defer to each of them to give the commissioners a deeper walkthrough of each of the component of the analysis that they performed. Lastly, our own financial investigator, Matt Jordan, and RSM's Melissa Vogt contributed greatly to the overall process, assisting with coordination between the IEB and RSM teams throughout the investigation. So that's my introductory remarks. So now I'll hand it over to Dan for his presentation.
Thanks, Monica. Good morning, commissioners and chair. RSM appreciates the opportunity to present Massachusetts Gaming Commission's investigation findings for financial suitability in today's hearing. The durable financial suitability investigation for the applicant was performed by the combined efforts of multiple teams working in unison. This included the Massachusetts Gaming Commission Investigations and Enforcement Bureau, members of the State Police Gaming Enforcement Unit, and RSM US LLP. For the purposes of this presentation, the term we or our will refer to the collaborative efforts of these distinct groups. To assist with the financial portion of the investigation, we, collectively with the investigators, performed a review of the financial standing of the applicant, Penn Sports Interactive LLC, or PSI, its intermediary parent company, Penn Interactive Ventures LLC, or PIV, and its ultimate parent entity, Penn Entertainment Inc. Penn Entertainment, which is publicly listed on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange, prepared audited financial statements as part of its regular filings with the SEC. PIV also prepared audited financial statements for years ended December 31st, 2019 through 2023, and unaudited financial statements for the years ended December 31st, 2017 and 2018, respectively. PSI is a fully owned subsidiary of PIV and does not prepare independent audited financial statements. According to disclosures provided by the applicant, PSI will continue to be fully funded by the parent, Penn Entertainment, to meet any cash needs. Penn Entertainment was previously found suitable to operate a gaming facility and then a retail sports wagering establishment in the Commonwealth. As such, PIV, with the inclusion of Penn Entertainment's financial ratios, given the parent's financial support of the applicant, formed the primary focus for the analysis. In addition to the audited financial statements, our team also reviewed publicly available investor presentations and press releases, as well as confidential information submitted directly to the MGC by the applicant. In summary, this analysis evaluated the applicant's financial suitability to operate online sports wagering in the Commonwealth by looking at several key areas. The investigation team examined historical financial performance and identified key trends on PIV's income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. We calculated key financial ratios to gauge changes in liquidity and profitability over time. We reviewed PSI's market share performance in the Commonwealth and other jurisdictions. We assessed current financial controls. We reviewed certain tax documents, and we analyzed the parent's historical liquidity position through an assessment of available cash, revolver capacity, and outstanding debt and lease liabilities. With this framework, we determined whether Penn Entertainment is in reasonable financial position to support the applicant until it reaches profitability in the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Dan. And this is the point that I was referring to as far as the next portion of this presentation, delving into the particulars of that financial investigation, as also suggested by Attorney Haggerty. And just as a roadmap for the commissioners, I do expect that following the conclusion of that portion of RSM's presentation, we would move directly into the cybersecurity portion of the presentation, which I believe would also be subject to a request for private session, both I believe in the methodology and in the results of that investigation for security purposes.
I was kind of wondering, Councilor Mercer, if that was going to come up or not. So glad to hear that request.
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up, Attorney Mercer, if you had not. So for the sake of trying to keep everything in closed session in one closed session, Chair Maynard, we would request that we go into closed session both for the particulars of the financials for PIV and also for the cybersecurity portion of the report.
We will take that up. All right. So where are we in the process? For Councilor Mercer, if you're, I see Commissioner O'Brien's mic off, but are you completely finished with your presentation?
At this point, yes, it would move directly into those two portions that I've just stated, and then we would likely be we would conclude at that point.
All right. So commissioners, I just want to make sure we get that on the record and where we are. Would we like to enter into private session to discuss those matters and those matters only?
I would, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Skinner? Yes. And Commissioner Broder?
Yes.
All right. So if we can enter into private session to discuss those matters and then return into the public session. Thank you. Connor, I think we can go ahead and just start to pull down the screen. Let everyone get settled. Run down where we are. Missing Commissioner Skinner, I think. All right. So just to remind the public where we are in the process, we just finished in private session reviewing financial and cybersecurity information. And we are now returning back into the public session. And I will ask Council Mercer if he has anything more to add to his presentation for the IEB.
There'll be nothing further from the IEB's presentation. The investigatory team will be happy to answer any additional questions from the commissioners at this point, if necessary.
All right, Commissioners, any, before we turn over to Ms. Haggerty, any questions for Councilor Mercer or anything that's appropriate for public session? All right, I'm seeing none. Ms. Haggerty, do you have any questions for Mr. Mercer or any other members of the IEB relative to their presentation?
No, we do not.
All right. With that, we will turn to the presentation by PSI. Ms. Haggerty, please proceed.
Good morning, commissioners, staff, and RSM. We'll make it short. Thank you for taking the time to consider Penn Sports Interactive for a durable finding of suitability for a Category 3 sports wagering license under 215 CMR 215.01. PSI appreciates the hard work and collaboration from the IEB, GU, and RSM during the investigation, and appreciates the opportunity to continue to operate in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. PSI respectfully requests that the commissioners issue PSI a positive determination of suitability, as PSI has demonstrated its suitability under 205 CMR 215.013 by clear and convincing evidence. As I stated earlier, we have a large number of our team members available to answer any questions should the commissioners have any. Thank you.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for Ms. Haggerty? Commissioner O'Brien.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if it's Ms. Haggerty or you've got a compliance or RG person on, but I want to start by saying thank you for the presentation today. And I have full faith in Penn and PSI in terms of durable suitability. In my time in the commission, I've been very impressed with the compliance and the cooperation from the company. I did flag an issue when the ESPN Bet relationship commenced in terms of where the line was going to be for ESPN Bet versus ESPN. And I did have a couple questions about There was a reference in Exhibit 2 in the report, March 25th, 2024, when an ESPN person during a pregame show talked about a risk-free bet. I believe there was supplemental information and comments from that person sort of walking that back, consistent with responsible gaming requirements. There was a couple of weeks ago, I think January 13th, Jason Kelsey is on an ESPN Bet segment on ESPN, and they talk about what they think their line should be. And he says, I think words to the effect of +2 because they told me to. And then there was some chatter about whether that was a joke or whether that indicated something deeper. So I just wanted to circle back. Again, you have been compliant, you have been cooperative, you have been cognizant of the line along the way. But if someone could comment on the efforts that ESPN Bet and UPSI are doing to keep the line clear in terms of recommendations on lines in the ESPN Bet promo segments.
Absolutely, Commissioner O'Brien. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Soriano, our Chief Compliance Officer, to speak to that.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Commissioner O'Brien, and good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Obviously, top of mind for us, Commissioner O'Brien, and we've had these conversations and certainly appreciate the dialogue and the sensitivity to this subject. And thank you for your comments on our compliance. It's certainly something we take very seriously. When we're examining relationships like this, and when we're examining exactly how things work, we think it's really important to have a robust set of policies, of training, of guardrails, and that is all in place and has been presented. And I think we're going to be exploring that further, certainly with respect to the March 24th incident, which I know the IEB is continuing to investigate. And I think when that's ready to go, we'll obviously have a more fulsome discussion about that. But I think careful collaboration and careful study and the willingness to be open-minded about what are best practices and what are learning experiences. And I think we've been very successful in terms of collaborating closely with ESPN, in terms of education, in terms of training, in terms of revisiting any practices that need to be revisited, in terms of looking closely, and in terms of regular check-ins, discussions, policies. I think there are verticals within Penn that are speaking all the time with verticals at ESPN to make sure that we're getting this right and that we're really understanding. Obviously, again, we'll discuss the Reese Davis incident and when it's ready to go. But I just want to assure you that this is something that is top of mind for everyone on this call, everyone that's involved, and making sure again that those robust policies and trainings that we have in place, that we continue to follow them and not rest on our laurels. Make sure that we're evaluating them for best practices going forward. And so that is our commitment. And we will obviously continue to do that on a going forward basis.
I appreciate that. And if as part of that conversation, maybe the most recent, January 13th segment could be part of that conversation and follow up, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely, Commissioner. We'll take that back.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. Can I ask a question, Chris, as a follow-up? And I don't want to get too far into the details, but there is a wall that exists between the backup book and the personalities. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. Thank you. All right, commissioners, any further questions on this? All right, any further questions for Penn? All right, Sam, does PSI have any presentation or specific witnesses it would like to present further? Or if not, we can move into the topic areas as set forth into the hearing notice.
No, we have nothing else. You can move forward. Thanks, Chair Maynard.
Okay, I'll ask again, do any commissioners have any questions for Ms. Haggerty or any of the presenters relative to the presentation by PSI? Or are there any individuals anyone would like to hear from? Does the IEB have any questions for Ms. Haggerty or from anyone from PSI?
None from the IEB. Thank you, Chair.
All right, we will now turn to the specific itemized subject matters from the notice of hearing. With respect to the first bullet from the hearing notice, which states, the durable suitability of PSI pursuant to 205 CMR 215.011. Does any commissioner have any questions for any witnesses present here today generally with respect to the durable suitability of PSI pursuant to 205 CMR 215.011? All right, hearing none. With respect to the second bullet from the hearing notice, which states the contents of the Investigation and Enforcement Bureau's suitability report, does any commissioner have any questions for any witnesses present here today regarding this topic? All right, I'm seeing none. Now that we have heard all the evidence in this matter, before we move to closing remarks, I'd like to turn to my fellow commissioners once again to make sure that there are no further topic areas that anyone would like to explore and that all of our questions have been answered. All right, we will now move to the closing remarks. Each of the parties will be afforded an opportunity to make a statement summing up their position, though they need not do so. Would Ms. Haggerty like to, would you like to proceed with any comments?
Sure, Chair Maynard, I'll make it short. Again, thank you to all the commissioners for speaking with us today. Thank you to the IAB, GEU, RSM, legal for all the hard work throughout this investigation and leading up to this hearing. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you all and to collaborate, and we hope to continue to do good things in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And we would just, again, respectfully request that the commissioners issue PSI a positive determination of suitability, as PSI has demonstrated its suitability under 205 CMR 215.01 by clear and convincing evidence. Thank you.
Haggerty. Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, Chair Maynard. I have nothing to add beyond what was stated in the IAB's opening remarks. I would like to thank the commissioners, thank the IAB's investigatory team for their hard work on this, and Penn for their cooperation throughout the process. But thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Mercer. Unless there are any further matters that the parties or my fellow commissioners would like to address, we will now conclude this portion of the proceeding. Does anyone have anything further? I would like to thank Penn for coming today and for being so transparent and helpful. And with that, the commission will now deliberate about the matter in private. Commissioners, just a little housekeeping issue. We do have a link that's set up for later in the day as anticipated. We can get into that link and have our conversation there. With that, we are adjourned, and everyone enjoy your Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.